So, for the past couple of years, AI has felt, well, like pure magic, right? But now, as we're heading into 2025, that magic is hitting some serious real world friction. We're moving from a time of just pure wonder to a time of serious work. And with that comes a whole new world of challenges. This is the story of what we're calling AI's engineering pain year.
And this image, it just perfectly captures the whole transition we're talking about. Over on the left, you've got this glowing orb of pure potential, the large language model as this incredible piece of tech. But to actually use it in the real world, it's got to become the machine on the right, a complex industrial-grade tool with gears and pipes and a whole lot of moving parts that can and do break. It's not just about creation anymore, it's about production, and production is always hard.
So let's kind of map this journey out. 2023, that was the miracle year, when everyone got their hands on generative AI for the first time and was just blown away. Then came 2024, the commercialization kickoff, which was this mad dash of experiments as businesses tried to figure out what to even do with this new power. And that brings us right here, the 2025, the engineering pain year, where all that hype has finally collided with the stubborn reality of building and maintaining these things for real. So where is all this pain coming from? Well, it really boils down to three main areas.
All right, so the first bucket of challenges, they come from the very heart of the models themselves. We're talking about fundamental issues of trust and reliability that we have to solve before we can really start depending on these systems for anything that truly matters.
And the biggest one, the one that just won't go away, is the problem of hallucinations. This is when the AI just makes stuff up, but it says it with so much confidence you'd think it was gospel. Think about it. In fields like medicine or law, where you have zero room for error, a hallucination isn't some quirky little bug. No, it's a massive risk event with very real consequences. Now, you'd think we'd have a fix for this by now. I mean, we have all these sophisticated techniques, right? Like retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. Its whole job is to ground the AI in facts. But, and this is the crazy part, look at the data here. Even with all that, hallucination rates are still stubbornly high. We're talking 15 to 20% in really specialized critical areas. This just proves it's not some simple bug we can patch. It's a deep, core flaw in the system. Okay, next up, complex reasoning, or more accurately, the model's failure at it. Look, an LLM can be great at a simple one- or two-step task, but ask it to do something with a long chain of logic, say a complex tax audit, and things start to fall apart. Little tiny errors start to build up. It's this butterfly effect, where one small mistake early on can completely derail the whole process 10 steps later.
And believe me, this isn't some academic what-if problem. The impact is huge. An MIT report found that a staggering 30% of AI agent applications get abandoned. Why? Specifically because of these reasoning failures. It's just a massive roadblock for any serious enterprise.
And the last piece of this fragile core puzzle, the knowledge cutoff. At the end of the day, these models are just snapshots in time. They're stuck with the data they were trained on. They don't magically learn about new laws or yesterday's financial reports. And what does that mean for companies? It means they have to build and maintain these huge, complex external knowledge bases just to keep the AI from being obsolete. And that costs a ton of money and adds a ton of complexity.
Okay, so that's the fragile core. Now let's talk about what happens when you try to take these models and actually use them out in the real world. This is where we hit the deployment and defense battlefield. And believe me, the stakes get way higher here. So the first big shock for anyone trying to do this at scale is the cost. The brutal economics of AI. The cost to run a single query, what we call inference, is shockingly high. We're seeing companies get hit with these eye-watering monthly bills. And it's not just money. Gartner points out that the energy footprint of a high-end model can be like a small country. Seriously, it forces a really tough conversation about whether the ROI is even there.
Then you've got this really tricky problem called model drift. And this quote, "AI service is like an emotional collaborator," it just nails it. Unlike a database which is stable, these models are totally unpredictable. The providers are pushing updates all the time and their behavior can just change on a dime, with no warning. A prompt that worked perfectly yesterday, totally broken today. It's so chaotic, it's created a whole new engineering field called LLM ops, just to try and manage it.
And this is a big one. As we start giving AI the power to actually do things in the world, we call this agentic AI, the risks just explode. You're basically creating a digital employee that can execute tasks. But what happens when that digital employee gets it wrong? What if it misunderstands you and deletes a critical database? or makes a bunch of bad financial trades, or just decides to access data it shouldn't. I mean, these are the nightmare scenarios that are keeping developers up at night.
And yeah, of course, we have to talk about security. The attacks have gotten so much more sophisticated than just trying to jailbreak the model. Now, we're seeing these indirect prompt injections. A hacker will hide a malicious command inside a web page or an email. Then, an unsuspecting user, maybe you, asks the AI to summarize that page. Boom! The hidden command gets triggered, and the AI is tricked into leaking your data or doing something else nasty. It's a whole new battlefield for cybersecurity. All right, which brings us to our final bucket of problems, the huge external pressures. We're talking about the legal world, the regulatory world, our entire digital ecosystem, all creating these massive headwinds for AI.
Yeah, privacy. It is absolutely the CIO's midnight nightmare. The big question is always, how can you be 100% sure that the sensitive company data you feed into an AI is going to stay private? And the threats are getting scarier. We're seeing things like membership inference attacks, where a bad actor can basically play a game of 20 questions with a model to figure out if your specific private data was in its training set. That's a huge, huge liability.
And to make things even more complicated, the global rules for AI are a complete mess. There's no single rulebook. The EU has its AI Act, China has its own set of rules, the US has this patchwork of state laws. It creates what you could call a Berlin Wall of compliance. Companies have to build different legal frameworks for every single region, and that just grinds global deployment to a halt.
And lastly, there's this really big, almost existential risk that people are calling model collapse. The idea is that the internet is getting flooded with AI-generated junk, slop, and that junk is poisoning the well for future AI. So if the next generation of models is trained mostly on the synthetic, mediocre output of the last generation, well, you can see the problem. Their logic, their creativity, it could all just start spiraling downwards. The AI literally starts eating its own tail.
So here's the thing you have to understand. These aren't 10 separate problems you can just tick off a list. As you can see in this diagram, they are all deeply, deeply connected. The crazy high cost is linked to model drift, which is connected to the security risks, which are all tangled up with the regulatory mess. They're all symptoms of one big thing. AI isn't a toy anymore. It's a piece of heavy industrial machinery.
So all this pain, it proves one thing beyond a doubt. You can't treat AI like normal software. It is a completely different kind of beast, and it demands a completely new way of thinking. A total paradigm shift in how we do engineering. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. The whole industry is shifting gears. We're moving away from this race for pure scale and capability, The question used to be, how big and how smart can we make it? But now, the focus is all on engineering for trust and reliability. The new question is, how can we operate this thing safely, consistently, and efficiently? So, where does that leave us? Is it all doom and gloom? No, not at all. The good news is, the industry isn't just sitting around. People are actively building the tools we need to get through this year of pain and move toward a future that's way more productive and responsible.
And this is what that future toolkit is starting to look like. First, you've got LLMs, that whole discipline we talked about for taming model drift. Then you have governance frameworks like Gartner's AI Trends that's all about building safety and security in from the very beginning. We're also seeing a shift to smarter, hybrid systems, mixing big and small models to get a better ROI. And finally, there's a huge push for what's called verifiable reasoning, which is all about making the AI show its work, so we can actually check its logic.
And I want to leave you with this last thought because it's really the most important takeaway. It's so easy to look at all these problems and get pessimistic to think, oh, here comes the next AI winter. But that is absolutely the wrong way to look at this. These engineering pains, they're not a sign of failure. They are the friction that proves the engine is finally engaged. It's proof that this technology is getting out of the lab and into the real world. This isn't the end. This is the beginning of the serious, transformative work of an industrial revolution.